All right, my featured guest today for Roqe the Experts is an Iranian-Canadian martial arts master from Niagara, Ontario, with a powerful life story that involves hard work, strength, and determination to find success. Badri Ricciardelli's journey has had some major bumps, with a lonely process of immigration at a young age, isolation and adjustment to a new country, a difficult divorce, and then 20 years ago, a major car accident. But ultimately, hers is a tale of defying the odds and finding herself and her strength in Taekwondo. It is a tale of resilience and inspiration. Badri was born and raised in Tehran. She moved to Canada as a teenager in the turmoil of the Islamic Revolution in Iran. She started learning self-defense and martial arts at the age of 17 while working for a global company in charge of NAFTA manufacturing. By the early 2000s, Badri found herself in the middle of a messy divorce and trying to heal from a life-threatening accident. She found her path in becoming a martial arts master, and now she's a 6th Dan black belt in Taekwondo, which is a rarity, especially for a woman, and is the founder of her own studio where she teaches Taekwondo, sometimes to students who are decades younger than she is, for whom she's a role model. It's quite a story, and right now, Badri Ricciardelli joins me in the Roqe Studio. Hello.
Hello.
Great pleasure to have you here.
Nice to meet you. It's
Nice to
great
meet you
be
too.
Yeah.
Do I call you master or
No, you can
a
call me
grandmaster?
Badri. No, I'm not a grandmaster yet.
Okay.
So,
But 6 Dan, when I mention that to people who know Taekwondo, they're blown away. I mean,
Really?
that's quite impressive, isn't it?
it is. It is. Not many people pass 4th or 5th. So for me to reach 6, I think there's only 2 of us in Canada, female, that are 6th Dan. And it's an achievement. It's dedication. It's discipline. It's sticking with what you like and following it through.
How long does it usually take to get to each step of Danism?
It's 5 years.
For each
Dan,
one?
For each Dan.
Oh my
At the
God.
beginning is 2, then 3, then 4, and then
So there's no
5.
7th Dan Taekwondo people who are like
no.
19 years old.
No.
They you have to
No.
kind of, it's a
No.
life journey.
No. Yes.
Wow.
It takes a long time. So for me to be a 9th Dan, which is the highest level, it's another 15 years.
And are you going for
I'm
it?
going for 7th for sure.
Wow.
7th for sure. I want to be the only one in Canada.
You'll be the only one in Canada?
That's what I was
With
told. If I get the 7th Dan, nobody else gets it before me. I'll be the first female
And you'll be the first female ever?
in Canada.
Wow.
7th Dan.
And how far are you away from the 7th Dan?
5 years.
5
Because
more
I
years.
just got my 6th in September of 2022.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I want to get into your story, and
Okay.
I want you to tell us the tale of how martial arts has effectively saved your life and how you're passing that wisdom and physical strength on to others. But let me ask you first. You've always, as I understand it, been a very private person. You haven't
Very
done a lot
much.
of interviews like
No,
this.
no.
You haven't opened up too much publicly about
No.
your journey. Why did this feel like the right time, Badri?
Many reasons. One of them is like, God, I'm 61. Until when you want to hide? Think about it. Until when you want to not share your story? What about people that could benefit from it? And few of my friends kept pushing, kept nudging, kept pushing. You should talk. You should tell your story. I mean, there's so many people that could use that, and why don't you say anything? And I thought, everybody is going through something. I'm not the only one. It's not unique. I'm sure people have gone through divorces. I've gone some kind of an accident, and a lot of them live in Toronto. They've had accidents, you know. What makes me so special? But because I've been here for so long, almost 43 years in Canada or longer, living alone, doing everything on my own without my family. So a lot of it started from that, being self-reliable, standing on my own 2 feet, basically being nobody's little protege or learn from. It was difficult. And building everything on my own, and that's what they said.
But your initial answer, how long am I going to hide?
Yeah,
You felt like you've been hiding?
definitely. I feel like I'm a private. I don't want anybody to know anything about me. Maybe I was worried about them judging because of the divorce, not because of anything else, because of the divorce. I didn't want people to judge me because Iranians do judge, right? They judge you by the cover. not knowing what's behind it. Nobody knows what you went through, but they tend to judge you. So and then I kept thinking, yes, I live in a small town that everybody talks, but I thought they have nothing else to do but talk about me.
But isn't being a Taekwondo master and being a teacher, having your own studio, that is kind of public, right? So
In the Taekwondo life.
You were okay with that.
Yes.
But you don't want, in terms of the rest of your story, your journey, that's the part that you, up until now, have wanted to kind of almost suppress?
Almost. But then that's the thing. The Taekwondo brought out in, who's this master? What made her get here? People wanted to know me as the master, because I get a lot of phone calls from the parents to help them with their kids' behaviors. Master, they listen to you, you come here. Then I thought, okay, how do they know how I raise my kids? How do they know? They're asking for me. How do they know? So I thought, okay, they want to know about me. I'm going to start talking.
All right. Well, so let's get into this story. I mean, by the way, you've talked a lot about wanting to be an example for your daughters.
My daughters, yes.
And for a lot of women out there.
Yes.
What would be the best result you can imagine of being that kind of an example? What do you hope women could learn from you?
Not settle for less. Not settle. Don't think good enough. I don't think we give ourselves enough credit to achieve for more. We think this is good enough. What is this enough for?
And you were that person at some point in your life.
I was, because it was insecurity of being alone, not having a family. So it's human nature to develop those insecurities.
Just before we get into this story, you this 6th Dan black belt in Taekwondo, what makes you so good at martial arts? I mean, I'm not talking about the spiritual, well, maybe it is spiritual, but I'm talking about literally, physically. Why are you so good at this? What is it that you can do?
I can still keep up with most of the movements. The couple of fancy kicks, turning around, I can't do anymore because of my accident, low back injury, and a little bit of getting dizzy. I'm good at it. I can do it. I have a competitive nature. I look at people that are really good and I want to copy them. I want to be just like them. And I try. I practice at home. And I pride myself into keeping up with them. You know, a lot of masters don't keep up with it, but the ones that do, they're my idols.
In your lowest points, could you have imagined you would be here talking about your success as a Taekwondo master and teacher?
No. I remember the time when I felt completely alone. And, you know, funny thoughts go through your head. You feel like you have absolutely nobody. You have no family. Your immediate family, mom and dad, are in different country, that they don't see what you're going through. They hear only what you tell them. So they're going to judge in a way. They're going to say, you should have. And I didn't want anybody should have me to death, you know. And my savior was my cat, I think. So
I've heard about your cat. If we think of your life in 4 acts, if you'll allow me, and you being in the 3rd one, perhaps now, unquestionably, the first act is the story of a girl growing up in Iran before the Islamic Revolution. How would you describe your life in Tehran as a kid in the 1960s?
It was free. We had no restrictions. It was a typical, during the Shah's time, that we enjoyed what he was doing. I remember the White Revolution. You know, my uncles were soldiers that were sent to different villages to teach. So the Shah was good all around for us. So it was really nice. We enjoyed it. We had a good life.
So you have fond memories.
Yes.
Is it true that you, from a young age, you had a fondness for fighting?
I did.
I mean, it's when I found this out, I had a chuckle, because I know Taekwondo is not about fighting necessarily, you know, but that you always had this in you. You've kind of come full circle in your life. So as a kid, young Badri actually wanted to be in the army. Is that right?
Yes. I remember watching the Air Force, which was very close to us. Every day I would see them when I was waiting for my bus to go to school. I would look at them and I wanted to be one of them. And I thought for sure when I finished school, I'm joining the Army. Now, was it Air Force or Sea? I don't know. That's the one I was contemplating. And I saw articles about the first 5 women in the Navy. And I kept that article and I was reading what they studied in university so I could study the same thing to be one of them, which didn't last because of the revolution. But I always did. And thanks to my brother, because he used to be the big brother and rule over me, and I was having none of it. So.
Oh, I see. You're thanking him for bullying you.
Yes, and trying to.
He gave you strength to fight back.
Yes.
When you say you had a fondness for fighting, did you actually get into fights?
Oh, physically, yes.
You did?
Yes.
With other
my
girls?
brother.
With your brother?
A lot, to the point that maybe it's not nice to say, but the neighbors had to come and separate us.
Really?
Yeah, we were.
He's older.
A year and a half older.
And was he larger than you?
Not much.
Not much.
No, we were equal almost in force, but I remember fighting back and throwing a chair one time. A good thing he ducked.
What did your parents make of this young scrapper as their daughter?
That was a headache, like not a bad headache, like just fighting. Stop fighting. Why don't you get along? So tell him to stop being my father.
So if I were to ask, you, would people be surprised that if they met you as a kid in Tehran in the 1960s or 1970s, that you're now a 6th Dan black belt? It sounds like they wouldn't be.
No, my family isn't. They always say, we knew you were doing something. Yeah, they're not surprised. They're actually very proud of it.
Well, it's amazing because there's this detour in your life for a number of decades, 2 or 3 decades, where you leave that fondness for physicality and what your parents thought, well, they expect this to happen, and you go into kind of a different mode, and that's really the interesting part of your story, how you, and in some ways a very difficult part of your story, of how you kind of your life takes a strange turn and then you come back to where you are now. By the time of the revolution, at 16 years old, you leave Iran, you come to Canada without your parents. How hard was it leaving Iran, and how hard was it trying to adjust in the very beginning to life in Canada?
It was very difficult. It wasn't like here like now that so many Iranians are here. It was very difficult. I cried every night. I was very close to my 4-year-old sister at a time that I left her behind. My brothers, even though with the older one, we never said goodbye because we're still fighting always. But now
it was acrimonious fighting.
Oh,
you guys actually were fighting each other.
Oh yeah. But now I miss him. We talk on the phone. But it was very difficult.
He's still around?
He's in Iran. Yeah.
And he's in Iran. And what does he make of all your success as a master?
He just laughs. And, when I went back the last time, his son wanted to fight me. And
his son wanted to fight you?
Yeah.
Because he probably couldn't take it.
No, he just laughs. Yeah. He's not a fighter anymore. But, yeah.
You were talking about crying every night.
It was very hard. I remember crying every night. At a time, it wasn't the cell phones or the phones that we have here, the social media. So it was literally dialing the rotary phone. I still remember that. It was hard connecting once in a while with them and talking to them. Missed them very much. Everything was new. Everything was fresh. I came from Tehran to Toronto, and the culture shock is there. But you're too busy getting involved to see how much effect it's having on you till later. It was hard.
Did you have a facility for English when you arrived, or?
There was the way to come to Canada as a student at a time was this Iranian English teaching school to get admitted to, and then you go off to your path. It was supposed to be 6 months, but in 6 months you learn nothing because it's Iranians and Chinese, and you speak Iranian, and the Chinese don't speak English, so it didn't learn much. Then I went to my high school in Brantford, where I was the only foreigner in school. Picture that. Right now it's opposite, but then I was the only foreigner in school.
So you've just come from a foreign country. You don't speak English very well, and you're the only ethnic kid.
And yes, the only one. Till the second year, we had one from Pakistan who was very smart too.
And how did you deal with that?
It was hard. I had my dictionary at the time. We had those thick dictionaries we used to carry around, find words, write them all over. In my English class, we had to study Macbeth. Good luck with that. So I asked my mom to send me Macbeth in Persian. So I had both books open.
And did you get teased for your accent or for not?
By a couple of the girls, I remember. By a couple of them. Because I couldn't say the TH, the. It's not part of our language, right? So.
I mean, in a place like Canada, there's a lot of ethnic kids. It's you know, especially as we head into the 80s and 90s, and of course today. But there was an added dimension with you, which is that you were an Iranian girl in Toronto during the time of the revolution, and then the hostage crisis, where Iranians quickly became seen as the enemy of the West.
Yeah.
Tell me about those times for you.
I was going to college then, so. When I was there, I remember my mom said, "Don't tell people you're Iranian." And I said, "What do I do with my looks then?" She said, just say you're Italian." So not to get engaged with the Iranians there, because there were few students at Niagara College at the time. So when they came talk to me in Persian, I would pretend I don't understand. And I would say, "Well, I'm Italian," and walk away. So it wasn't something you would really share.
You know what? I have a similar story. I would.
Do you?
Well, people would say Jian. That sounds French, and I would kind of go, you know, hoping that they would think I was French because I was so worried that I'd be called a terrorist or whatever. Yeah. And yet you feel like an imposter. I mean, you're not Italian, right? You're kind of living a lie.
Living a lie. Yeah.
You're in an ethnic closet.
Yeah. So one of the boys' mom saw my name, and said, "She's not Italian, she's Iranian, invite her over for dinner." So when he started speaking Farsi to me and telling me what it said, I just started laughing. I said, okay. So I went, and for the first time I had Zerash Polo. After 5 years, like, yes.
So that felt good.
Yes.
So when you say busy trying to be what my parents wanted me to be, what part of that wasn't who you wanted to be?
Not a lot of it wasn't. Like I said, I was thankfully one of the ones that didn't go against the parents, because they always showed me examples of people being successful.
But what was their dream for you? You said they had a dream for me to come. What was it?
Be successful, be educated.
Successful meaning make money?
Obviously, that was one.
I mean, okay, successful can be healthy
education.
Or happy.
Education was very important to them. That's one of the reasons my dad sent me out. Schools were closed back home. Everybody was on strike. Education was very important to my dad. And standing on your own feet.
And you go to college, not university.
No, I went to Niagara College.
And you actually, just as a testament to how it wasn't the easiest time of your life, you at some point had to quit college because you needed to make money, right?
I did. It was the third year of all time, when there was a war going on with Iran and Iraq. It was very hard to get money, so you were on your own. I was sitting in the class, and I'm thinking, looking at my bank account, it's like, okay, literally, I had $200. What do I do? Pay the rent? At the time, it was very cheap, or eat? Difficult choice. I decided to quit on the last term of the third. I mean, you're going to graduate, but I just couldn't do it. So I quit, got 2 part-time jobs.
And your parents weren't able to support you at this point?
No, it was so hard then. It was so hard. I didn't expect them. They couldn't even send money out. So it was really bad. And they tried, but I started working. And thankfully, I started working for engineering firms, summertime. And then somehow I found Vesuvius, who I did not even apply. They found me through my resume from somebody else, and I interviewed. I told them, I don't even know what you make, so why would you hire me? Literally. So they give you a math test, and I found it too easy. There were 3 people in the room. I found it too easy. I said, this is a trick. I'm not doing this. I literally told them that. It's a trick. It's too simple. I'm not going to make a fool of myself. So I didn't do it. They were chuckling. So I leave. No, before I left, they said, so do you have any questions for us? And I just repeated, I don't know what you make here. And they said, okay, thank you. I go home. They're not going to call me. They called me on a Friday, and they said, can you come for lunch on Monday? You're hired. I said, okay. So, and that's the company that I learned a lot from, my experience in life and work, even life experience, by watching other people. Yeah.
You have that job, and then by your mid-20s, you get married.
Yeah.
You said that you were not confident enough at that stage of your life to not get married.
Yes.
You weren't confident enough to not get married. It's an
Yes.
interesting thing to say.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Again, this is when I was 24, when I got engaged. You still have no family here. I hadn't seen my parents. I hadn't seen my parents yet. So, I'm trying to think, after 7 years, I saw my mom. I didn't see my dad till I got married, after the wedding. So, you still have no family. You're still alone. And you think, oh my, who's going to marry me? Oh, okay, this person looks nice, has a nice family. I should get married.
You settled.
I settled. I should get married. What else am I going to do? Who else is going to marry me?
It's understandable.
Yeah. So when you're 24, 25, you see, it's like, now what? So I did. And when you have that doubt, it's still there, and you go through with it, you know something is wrong.
Oh, so even from that time, you were feeling like this wasn't right.
I didn't want to admit it, but when you tell yourself, you know, it may be hard for some people to hear this, when you say to yourself, I love this person, I love this person. But loving and being in love, so much apart, so far apart. So far. You love everybody. You know, you love your cat, you love your dog. So, no, being in love is so different than loving. I wasn't in love.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard to get into a marriage kind of knowing from the get-go that it's not entirely what you want.
No, and I think it didn't help when I had a problem with one of the members of the family from day one. No, I knew that person is not my fan because he thought I should be rich, and I didn't have an oil well in my backyard in Iran, so I wasn't good enough. And I'm thinking, well, who are you to tell me that?
You end up having a couple of kids.
I have 2 daughters.
2 daughters.
Yeah.
And did the daughters sort of postpone any feelings about the marriage not being ideal? Did you just get so focused on the kids that there's a traditional narrative, right? The kids will help the marriage because that becomes the priority.
You think, okay, I have kids to raise. I can split that. Who am I to do this? We just bury yourself in work. My ex worked all the time. We hardly saw each other, different shifts. We just waved on the highway. So I can leave them. What if I lose them? It was the fear of the kids until they were 10 and 13. I remember thinking, what am I teaching these kids? This is marriage? This is not a marriage. I don't want them to follow this. I don't want them to copy this. I don't want them to think this is marriage and this is good enough and you should settle. No. And I told them that. I said, this is not a marriage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
While you were still with him?
And when I was going through, I said, this is not a marriage. I don't
How
want
did
you
they
to
react
think.
to that?
Not much. They were 10 and 13, right? So, but I told them from day one, I'm not your dad. I'm not going to cut you off from your dad. I cannot be both. I don't have it in me. I'm a mother. I can't be a father. So I didn't want them to have a bad relationship with their father. But they know how I feel about him.
You start diving back into martial arts in a serious way at the age of 37, which is kind of the beginning of the rest of your life. Yeah, rest of your life. Was that deep dive into martial arts connected to this restlessness that you were feeling about where your life had gone?
Part of it, I started taking the martial arts when I was traveling a lot, and I wanted it as a safety. But I remember going to the dojang, and it felt good being there. It was my time, and I don't remember thinking about anything except what I was doing. I was 100% present without even trying. I was 100% present there and learning. And it was something nobody could take away from me, not even my ex. It was nothing that the judge or neighbor or anybody could take away from me. So it was my refuge at the same time.
Is that somehow unique to Taekwondo? Do you think it's something about the sport that feels that immersive?
I think so, because when you're there, you have to really concentrate and learn new things. And
like you wouldn't have got this from playing tennis or something?
No. From tennis, I would try to hit it as harder as I can to get my aggression out, you know.
You said part of the incentive was safety. You mean self-defense?
Self-defense, yeah.
So So you're this woman who's working in this male-dominated industry. You're getting sent around. You literally wanted to learn how to defend yourself?
Exactly, because I traveled a lot by myself, and I think mentioned that I had no second reservations about getting a car from Chicago, driving to Gary, Indiana, to see a supplier.
I mean, just out of curiosity, have you ever needed to use Taekwondo in a situation that you've been in?
Not close, but you're aware when somebody's following you. It's an eerie feeling, to be honest with you. You are very aware of who's watching you, who's not. A couple times I noticed.
You mean you're more aware because of Taekwondo?
Yes.
Why?
Well, part of the training.
Oh.
You're taught to be vigilant. And I tell the same thing to my students. Don't take anything for granted. I'm dead against these headphones when kids are on the street. Dead against it. I tell them take it off because you can hear things, you can feel things. Your mind is preoccupied. So a couple of times it's close. You have this gut feeling that I refer to, and I trust my gut feeling that somebody was too close, or even somebody tried to grab your hand, but you're in a crowd. You know how to get out of it. Things like that.
Some of it, I guess, it emboldens you. It gives you a confidence that
Yes.
you know how to handle the situation.
Yes,
then, right?
even though it's sometimes a false confidence, because there's always somebody bigger than you.
Right.
But you become aware of it. And when I meet somebody, I make sure I'm leg length distance with them. And
Although having met you now, I don't think somebody being bigger than you, I feel like it's irrelevant. You could take anybody.
well, you have to learn the different
tough.
body parts. So, yeah.
Let's get into this really difficult time of your life. You have a major life interruption. This would be, I guess, in your early 40s or just
42, 41, 42.
about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When you get into this car accident, what happened, Badri?
Just driving home on October 2nd, and it was a sunny, dry day. I had at an intersection, I had the way of the road, going 80 kilometers, and another truck that was raised belonged to a winery. Didn't stop at the intersection, didn't stop at the stop sign. Directly came in front of me. I think I saw a white wall. I remember thinking, what's this? Oh my God, this is it. And I just heard metal to metal.
And what exactly happened? I mean, if you passed out, but somebody would have told you what the car hit you and.
So I hit the front end of the truck because I pushed him. His back end hit me again, and I went swirling, put me in a ditch. So I had an SUV GMC, which was totaled, completely totaled. And if you saw the picture, you would think somebody definitely died.
Were you still in the car?
I was in the car. I broke my wrist.
Belted?
Yes, yeah. Thank God for that. So the car took a lot of the damage, but it didn't have a side airbag. So actually the airbag is what broke my wrist.
Oh.
It was hanging on, so airbag deployed and hit my wrist. And basically shattered my
I
wrist.
always wonder about that, whether the airbag can actually be dangerous somehow.
A lot of people say that, yeah.
So I've got it here. You broke your wrists, your shoulders,
Surgery, major damage and a tear to the shoulder.
your ribs,
My ribs, my punctured eardrum.
punctured eardrum.
I couldn't hear for 9 months from one.
Did that heal?
Heals by itself.
It does?
Yeah, it takes about
I thought
6 to 8
ears never get better when
No.
something goes
Broken
wrong.
eardrums, it heals by itself. You're under a care
That must have been
constantly.
terrifying.
No. I remember when the paramedics came, they were so busy with the blood and the broken bone, nobody's paying attention. I can't breathe because of the ribs. I kept saying, I can't hear, because everything was muffled. So they were just busy with the blood.
You must have been terrified.
I was terrified, but at the same time worried about, the car. The car, because the car, belonged to the ex, and it was very important. Materialistic thing was very, very important to them. The car. My computer from work is in there, and my Taekwondo. I was going for the 2nd degree, and that's gonna be stopped now. I was everything except myself.
Did you think that when you start to realize what's happened to you physically, do you think you may never be physically okay again? Does that go through your mind?
At the time,
Yeah. that you're going to somehow be, I don't know, unable to live a normal life physically?
I thought about that why did it happen? I was on a high coming back from Korea from a competition a month before that, and a few months before that from work recognition trip. So you're on a high. All of a sudden you crash. Why me? Why me?
A competition in Korea for
It was Taekwondo from say
Taekwondo.
patterns. Yeah. So it was why me? Why me? What is this lesson supposed to be? And a friend of mine said that your life was going the wrong direction, but you didn't listen to other cues. So he put a 90-degree stop in front of you to really pay attention. And I believe that. Because after my life really changed after that, started making decisions for myself. Yeah.
And I mean, the accident coincides with the dissolution of your marriage. They're
Yes.
somehow interrelated.
Yeah.
It must have felt like you were losing everything all at once. I mean, you said, and you said it a little earlier too at the beginning, that you thought nobody would even realize if you disappeared. Nobody would miss you except for your cat. That's pretty dark stuff.
It is.
That's a dark place to be.
It was. And I don't think anybody realized I was going through that because you don't show it. So I wouldn't go out of the house a lot at all. I was crying a lot. Crying. And even during the marriage, I remember at night I was crying. You're sleeping in separate bedrooms and I'm crying at night thinking, I'm Iranian. I come from East where we pride ourselves into touch and hugging, skin to skin. That's how you heal each other. And I'm not having that. Who's going to hold me? Who's going to hug me? So there was a lot of stuff happening that nobody knew. They just see this Badri who puts up a facade and goes out. So I was tired of that, I think, after a while. But I was very, very depressed. I was crying a lot. I literally had, the only family I had was from my ex's side, if you call that a family. And obviously they're not around anymore. I had a couple of really good friends. They're going through their
What
own
about your
issues.
daughters? How were they dealing?
My daughters were 10 and 13. They're busy going high school. And I wanted to shield them from that. I didn't want them to see me that way. I'm trying to set an example, so I don't want to depress them.
What was the...
So I get angry because I went through that depression. I went through that loneliness and I allow it to happen. I was so desperate. I was so angry and low that I thought nobody's going to miss me if I die tomorrow. And I was over St. Catherine's Skyway Bridge. And I just looked over as I'm driving down. I thought if my car just veered left or right, by the time it's going to be, nobody would notice. Like, oh, it was an accident. Who's going to miss me? This person, that person? No. Okay, my daughters, I would feel bad. They have their father, they have their family. They're going to get over it. I'll be mourned. They remember me as their mom, da-da-da-da. I felt bad for my mom, but mostly who's going to look after my cat? Because that cat cannot talk to you, cannot say how it feels. So it was...
Was that the lowest point, the
It was the
driving over
lowest
the bridge? Or
It
can you
was.
think of a moment that was where did it feel like bottom for you?
No, that was it. When you think you want to take yourself out, and it wasn't just once. It happened a couple of times because it seemed like, okay, will I be in this lane? Will I be in that lane? I don't want to cause accidents for other people. Okay, the barricades are really high here. So you're playing it. Does anybody know that? No.
So, back to what your friend said, this accident, as tragic, as scary, as traumatizing as it clearly was and could be, it was also the precipitant. It was the push you needed to take control of your life. Would that be the case?
It is, even though it took a few years, because from 2003, which was end of it, say 2004, this is when you realize how much you count in someone else's life. When there's nobody there to look after you, basically, you're all banged up, you're in a cast, you can't hear, you can't move, everything hurts, and nobody's there to feed you, in a way. When they say we already ate, don't worry about us, it's like, well, that's really nice to know. What about me? So, and I said many times to my ex that it wasn't in sickness and in health. It was all in health. If it was sick, you're on your own. You know, you feel like you're a burden. Even when he was driving me to some physiotherapy, I felt like a burden to him. Oh my God, he's got to go to work and da 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 da. And a lot of little things he said and he did that I still remember.
What was the turning point where you said, enough? I'm gonna turn this thing around, and I guess how did Taekwondo intersect with that?
When I wasn't going back to work, they put me on a short, long term and short term. First short term because I knew I had to get another surgery on my wrist. It was completely shattered, so they had to reset it. So I wasn't working. The money wasn't coming in. So that's when I felt it.
Let me ask you, how do you feel about aging? You know, you're 61.
Mm-hmm.
It's no secret. You said it yourself earlier in the interview. You seem to be your best self now. What is your relationship with getting older?
I don't see myself old as in way of thinking. I don't. Even sometimes.
Does anyone?
No, but I mean, I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I'm going to be a grandma in a month. Hello? Do I look like a grandma? That's what I tell my daughters. I don't feel it, honest. I don't. I want to still look younger, yes.
Do you worry about it?
A little bit. Yeah.
I mean, you're in a sport, right?
No, but
so, you know, in football and soccer, you know, by the time you're 30 years old, they say, oh, he's a veteran player.
Yeah. But that's the
mean,
good thing about Taekwondo. It has two different divisions. Up to 30, 34, you can spar, do Olympic style sparring or fighting, or you can stay with the patterns and the pumse that you go up to as long as you live, and keeps you physically fit. So as masters, after 35, 40, that's the route we take. And it keeps you very fit. I think I'm afraid of aging because I never played when I was younger. I feel like it's not time to age yet because I haven't played yet. That's what stops me. That's the only thing that worries me. Really, that's what it is. Not aging by numbers, it's aging by thoughts. I haven't played yet.
What does playing mean?
Having fun, traveling, carefree. Play with the ball. When the ball comes at you, do you kick it away or do you actually play with it? You know? Which one do you do?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to travel and play and have fun, you wouldn't have opened a studio where you have to...
No, I can... No.
Can you do all of that?
Yes, in fact, I'm thinking of going away in 2 weeks. I can, because it's a semi-private dojang. It's not something in the plaza you see that you have to walk in and there are instructors there to help you out. No, it's just me. I give them notice. At the beginning when they join, I do tell them there's so many weeks of vacation in the pricing already. So when I'm off, I'm off. Simple.
You certainly don't, in terms of when you said a moment ago that you don't think of your age, or you don't, that's clear from nothing. Seemingly, you haven't stopped doing what you always do. I'm curious, as somebody who is involved in a sport and is involved in a physical practice in terms of what you do, are you in that process of constantly, like, even I start thinking these days, I'm like, oh, well, you know, people tell me I'm a runner, you know, and people have been telling me basically since I turned 40, you know, you shouldn't run. It's bad for your knees, or you should do something else. And so you kind of have to think, oh, I've got to start compromising myself because I'm getting older. I should be careful not to do the things like running because it'll be bad for my knees when I turn 60. Or do you find yourself doing that, or is it? No. You don't do that at all?
No, because of our sport. I'm not a runner, so I don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Thank God for that. But in our sport, Taekwondo, no, because it really works on your conditioning your body from mentally to physically, everything. So conditioning your body, which is, it concentrates on every single part of your muscles, every muscle you have in your legs and your back and your arm. You're constantly working with them and conditioning them, keeping them in a really good physical shape. And a lot of it is backed up by resistance training. because you want to keep the muscle stronger, right? In order to deliver a blow or whatever, or just keeping fit. As part of that, I do resistance training. Part weights, a lot of bands. That's the only
bands.
thing
Right.
that when you say about physically, it's going to be restrictive, is the heavy weights that I don't want to lift anymore. There's no need. I'm not going to a contest for bodybuilding, so I don't have to lift that heavy. Bands that I use a lot, and a lot of my classes that I train
Keeps
other
you
people,
toned.
keeps you toned, and you can adjust the weight according to how you hold the band. So that's what I do. And no, I'm not afraid of physically being not fit.
Do you feel like people still underestimate you?
No, I don't think so. Like, meaning who? My peers?
I don't
Family?
know. I mean, people coming into the dojang, I don't know.
No, I have a lot. Parents have a lot of respect for me, thank God. A lot of respect.
There have been times throughout your life where people have underestimated you.
Yes.
Whether it was your co-workers in a male-dominant industry,
yeah.
whether it was your ex-husband,
Well,
etc.
My ex's family did a lot of that, underestimated me.
Uh-huh.
You know, they tried to turn me into Italian. They thought I was an orphan. So, no, and I think after the divorce, when I filed in 2006, that was the first time I went back to Iran after 27 years. And I realized I'm not an orphan. I have a family, I have all these cousins and parents, and I felt good coming back.
I was going to ask you about Iran as a final question, but since you just brought it up right now, as a woman, a strong woman, as somebody who was there before the revolution, what has the latest uprising in Iran and the women life freedom movement meant to you?
I get really upset and uptight watching it because they're suppressing the women by a bunch of incompetent, uneducated men. I mean, that's what hurts. Uneducated, incompetent, ignorant men. If it was Albert Einstein doing it, maybe would say, what are we missing? But these guys, what do they have to offer? And they are the one putting down educated women. That's what angers me. And the fact that a lot of women, yes, I'm saying it with the safety of Canada, within Canada, women are just, no, don't hit me. Turn around and hit back. Take a knee out. The guy can't walk anymore after that. I know they're going to come back, but he can't just constantly
You
take
literally
it.
believe that, like women in the streets, if a Basij guy comes and tries to hassle you, you actually believe
There's
in
safety in numbers,
physical
right?
fighting.
These
right?
Basij people, there's safety in numbers. They come in groups. Do you see one coming by himself? Safety in numbers. It's strategy.
But in general, you believe, you don't believe in passive resistance. You're not into the Gandhi, the MLK kind of thing of let's sit back and not engage in the kind of what the other side is doing. You believe in hitting back.
It's only me. It's my opinion, my idea. I do. I don't believe in...
You have since you were a kid.
Yes. If someone is raising their hands on me, who are you? You're not any higher than me. You're not better than me. We're all born naked, right? So just different gender. Even women I see, the Basij women. Oh, that I would like have one of them. Honest to God. That angers me. Like,
You
who are
would
you to
probably go to jail, obviously, in Iran, but if you fight one of those women. But
one of the women Basij, oh my God, there's so many ways to hide. How do they hide? But anyhow, that's my opinion only. But I would, if somebody coming at me with baton, I'm not going to stand there and just take it.
So when you say you get disturbed by it, have you also been inspired seeing these young women on the front lines of pushing back against these mullahs, this theocracy?
When you say inspired, if you do something that helps Iran, is that what you're saying?
Well, a lot of people, for example, have come on Roqe, and especially women, and said, I'm amazed at these young women, these teenagers or whatever, who are pushing back against these guys or their school superintendents or whatever. It's not something I ever had the courage to do when I was in Iran. I mean, you weren't there for the Islamic Republic, but yeah.
It's tough to say what would you do when you're not in that position, only assuming what you would do.
Okay.
Good for them, though. I mean, this generation that never really saw what we lived through. And I think they learn it through this social media, what is the life can be.
That's right.
And they're striving for the life they've never really tasted. That's amazing. That is what I'm amazed about. At least I knew what it was like. They never saw it. They're living through somebody else's eyes, right?
It's good talking to you. Thank you for sharing your story. Let me ask you this. What is the best part about being a martial arts master and being a teacher today?
It's helping and raising the kids that come to you from the beginning, helping them grow emotionally, physically. A lot of kids that come are bullied in school. They're shy. They don't even look at you in the eyes when you're talking. They hardly speak. And when I teach them, they have to look at me and talk and raise their voices. I have to hear. And when they change, and all of a sudden they're so confident and they walk with a pride, and they're doing so much better at school because they're confident, their memory coordination, that is a great, great gift. I feel great when I see those kids and the parents. And the adults, the same thing. The physical transformation that I see either through Taekwondo or my Thai fit classes, they're stronger, they're more confident. It makes me feel so good. That makes me want to research more and get better at my job, because every coach has a coach, right? So I want to learn more, and how can I improve them more? Because for the kids, we're raising good citizens all around. It's not just kicking and punching. Raising good citizens with respect all around.
Look how excited you just got.
Yeah, see?
You like doing, you love
I
that.
do.
You love coaching.
Yes. I feel like I'm part of that child's life. It takes a village to raise a kid, right? And for me to be picked by the parents as one of them is an honor. Me, Badri, you know.
And what do they call you? Master Badri?
Master, yeah.
And if they say master, what's the greatest lesson you've learned through all of your life journeys? Teach me. What do you tell them?
Trust yourself, your gut feeling. Listen to your gut feeling. You want to make some mistakes, make sure that it's something you can come back from, that you're not going to dive down a cliff. So rely on your family. Family's always there. Friends come and go.
Thank you for this.
Thank you.